FitzGerald, who is the director of the Balsillie School of International Affairs in Canada. And thank you very much for joining us. And I do hope I got the pronunciation of the school correct. We now know, news that broke recently this evening, that $700 million of US aid will be withheld from Sudan. How much of an impact do you think that will have on the military leaders?
Well, I think it will have a huge impact. Any international calls for the military to reinstate the civilian leadership and civilian government will be very powerful indeed and very necessary in order to put a halt to what is effectively a staged military coup.
And it's not just the first staged military coup we've seen. This is the second one in the space of a month. So given that, and also that key deadlines towards transition and towards the election in 2023 were missed, was this administration always flimsy or perhaps something of a sham?
Well, it was always going to be difficult for this administration to serve as a workable solution, and that's why it was called a transitional arrangement. It was a coalition type of arrangement that sought to bring in more voices, but the military is claiming now that not enough voices have been brought in. And in addition to that, they are also suggesting that the military leaders are being marginalized. But that's not an ideal part of this arrangement either, because democratic principles call for civilian control of the military for very good reasons. The military is the institution, as are other security agencies, that have a monopoly on the use of force. And that monopoly has to be controlled and overseen. That is why a democratic principle is civilian control of the military. So that wasn't an ideal thing to have, aside from on a temporary basis within this arrangement. And in my view, holding this arrangement in place until 2023 was already a bit too long.
And so given what you've said, and it did look like the military perhaps never had any intention of surrendering power, at least not completely, what other consequences could the military face, or perhaps what other pressure could be brought to bear here to get this transitional process back on track?
Well, I think we're already seeing a lot of protests on the streets, and not insignificant numbers. The numbers are amassing, and we're likely to see those protests continue. We've already seen violence against these protests, so it will depend on the military's approach to managing these protests. There have been restrictions on internet and telecommunications. This is a frequent tool that is used by the security sector in Sudan when it seeks to suppress any form of protest activity. We've also seen calls from across the professional sector of leaders for strike activities, as well as road blockages, etc. And this has the potential to bring an already severely economically strained country to its knees, unless moves are made to bring back peace and stability quite quickly. And lastly, I would say that we also have potential to see possible splits in the military. Let's not forget, in 2019, the population appealed to the military as the only institution, the Sudanese armed forces in particular, to bring about change and to oust the President Omar al-Bashir's government. That they did. And it will be interesting to see if there are factions in the military now that will support the popular demands. Although it should be said that there is a group within the population that feels that the generals are the only ones that can bring about change. So I think a lot of it rests on the extent to which there is unity and solidarity in the senior ranks of the military, and also whether or not these generals have the support of any external actors. This is a big decision to take. And these generals will have to count on support from some camps. It doesn't appear that there is widespread support within Sudan. So the question is there support outside of Sudan?
I'm sure you'll be keeping a close eye on it, and let's hope you can join us again to fill us in. Thanks very much indeed for the moment.